So, Darrin, how did today change the politics, if at all? We know that, look, Labor is going to recognise Palestine, right? It's fairly obvious where they're going. The talking point where multiple people last week, it was when, not if. We know that the vote is in September. We know where Penny Wong wants to go. We know where Albo's been since the 1990s on all of this, and he's going to see what happened today. Is he going to come out the day before September with the recognition, or does he use what he saw maybe from his own window in Kirribilli House today to say, I'm doing it this week?
There's a lot to unpack here, but I think today was significant because I accept that there were ratbags protesting in Melbourne and they made fools of
100%.
themselves.
I should have mentioned that. I apologise.
But, and as Michael pointed out, 100% agree. But Sydney was not that. Sydney was 100,000 people. This was the same, similar size as the Reconciliation March a couple of decades ago. This was a big deal. Now, I think a lot of people I didn't protest today, but if you had one to protest pro-Ukraine, I'd front up on a weekend and walk across the bridge. And I think a lot of people today would have the same view. But there is a groundswell of support that even though there are a lot of people reserve that right for Israel to defend itself, they don't support Greta Thunberg and other troublemakers trying to sail a flotilla and land on Israel land. But there are people who have genuine concerns at a humanitarian level of what's occurring. And personally, if I was Israel, I would not back down until the those have been taken, until the hostages are returned.
Of one of the hostages.
Until the hostages are returned, I wouldn't bend.
10 times worse for themselves.
But I do think, and you can't negotiate with terrorists. Yeah, full stop. But however, there are a lot of people who have a lot of concerns, and that level of concern, I think, is rising, not falling.
So again, look, I don't want to dominate the whole
tell me why they're so concerned about Israel.
Yeah, Michael, go.
I think they're concerned.
Why are they so concerned about Israel?
Well, partly is the intense...
Why not Russia?
Hang on. I think they would be concerned about Russia and Ukraine. I think part of it would be...
Well, where are the demonstrations against the Russians?
Well, I think there
Where are the
would be
demonstrations against Putin?
Look, I'm
when you say would be,
Michael, I'm part Jewish.
Would be.
This is not...
Why aren't they?
We're on the same side here, all right? But I think there is a growing groundswell of people who are very concerned. And part of it would be that they constantly see images from Gaza, those images... and we all know there are 15 conflicts around the world that are equally disastrous at any... I'm not pro-Hamas either. And I didn't march today, but I think people have concerns, and those concerns are in terms of the images that they see and they are fed. Those concerns are legitimate. That's why they marched.
Right, we could do it all night.
It's not just ratbags. This was a real wide, broad spectrum of the population. I didn't march. I don't want to march.
Julian Assange.
Hey, look, I'm not pro those guys,
I get it.
But there's a lot of people marched today that think there's a problem. And one great thing about Australia...
It's a huge number, I acknowledge that.
One great thing about Australia is that you're allowed to protest. That protest happened, and now it will be processed in many, many ways by many, many people.
So Michael, I do want to move on, only because I don't want the whole hour to be this, right? There will no doubt be most of the week will be about this, but still. And rightly so, right? Does this change some of the politics, right? Where if you're Anthony Albanese and you're trying, there's clearly obvious where he wants to go and he sees what he sees today, does he not see that as the window now, or he's going to drag it out and play the slow ball and pretend on the 28th of August that's when he's decided to do what we all know he's going to do?
So, mate, there's a reason the left demonstrate, because in the end, weak Western governments cave in to mass demonstrations. Fair point. And they've been doing it ever since the Vietnam War. And, these demonstrations go on, and that's the left's way of winning debates. And you get governments like poor old Macron in France, he caves in, and then Starmer, whose country is a complete mess, he caves in. The Canadian leader caves in to these extremes. Albanese can say, oh, this is a mass demonstration, this is what the people want, and we're going to, he's going to recognise Palestine, which would be extraordinarily premature, because we don't know where Palestine is, we don't know who will run it, we don't know any of the things that are preconditions to the recognition of a state that was set down almost 100 years ago in that convention. But he's of the left. He's always been a Palestinian supporter, as has Wong. So, of course, he'll cave in on this and he'll claim... That's why this demonstration was there today. This demonstration was effectively there solely to pressure Albanese and to intimidate people. And what it does, it means that the Jewish community in this country live in fear, and that is disgusting. That is disgusting, and that's happened on Albanese's watch.
Lock up everyone who's anti-Semitic, no problem. But I do think at a very human level, I feel sad for those who are Kurdish or Palestinian or other groups in the Middle East who got bugger all out of the carve-up post-World War II. It's not easy. These conflicts are not easy to solve, but it's okay to have a human kind of reaction to people. As we all feel for the Israeli population. We do. After the You've got to feel for at a human level.
Yeah. All right, Michael, I promise
the UN partition in 1947 gave the Palestinians land, my friend. The next day they invaded Israel. That's what happened. And Israel fought them off and won. So don't say the Palestinians did badly out of the UN partition. They did exceptionally well, but they didn't want a Jewish state. And the problem is the Palestinian leadership occasionally say Arafat in the end and Mahmoud Abbas say, oh, so we'd support Israel's right to exist. The Palestinian extremists do not believe in a two-state solution. They believe in a one-state solution which involves the eradication of Israel and the killing of Jews. Now, that's what they're on about.
I was going to talk about productivity. I was going to talk about unions. I was going to talk about net zero. But we've only got time now. We've done all of that. So let's get to our bold predictions for the week ahead. Darrin Barnett, what's definitely happening in the next 7 days?
I think that what you're suggesting is true, that this protest today will lean towards more favourable commentary from senior levels of the government to recognise a Palestinian state.
Yep. Your thoughts, Michael? Definitely this week?
No, it might be a week or so after that. The productivity summit being set up by the Labor government, unless the business community stands firm, stands up, they're going to get monstered like they did at the job summit, mate.